thanks so much for having me here at DigiMarcon. Really happy to be here, and would love to go over, I've been in the industry for 25 years. I'm going to go over 10 ways to getting sales leads that I think are really proven effective ways that I've used, and then and it's really helped me get into the C-suite. So we'll go through that right now, and hopefully it will be educational for you. Again, the problem always, I think, we're always being asked to drive more revenue, get closed deals. How do you get to the C-suite, the decision makers? And of course, you have to always be closing, as everybody knows. Back in 2008, and we represent clients like K-Swiss and Sonos and Discovery Networks and Learfield Sports. And for the last year and a half, I went to the UFC and ran their global sales. And I've been doing that up to about 5 weeks ago. And it was great running around the world, developing a new sales force. I hired 10 agencies to help sell us globally, and worked here in the US and redesigned our sales force here in the US. I since left 5 weeks ago and restarted my agency. I picked up the English Premier League and the rights to represent German Bundesliga, clubs in German Bundesliga, Italia Series A, French League One if you're soccer fans here. If you're into China, basketball is the biggest sport there. We have the Chinese Basketball Association. Velon is a consortium of 11 of the top 18 cycling leagues, cycling teams, and they've come together, and their first big thing is on bike streaming. They're going to be streaming all of the riders, bikes on all the riders this next season coming up, so it's going to be pretty exciting with that. We're also working with the largest hotel operator, Posadas, in Mexico. And so, getting into driving 10 leads, I mean, the problem is you're trying to find a decision maker. How do you get in to find a decision maker? Somebody who's going to be your advocate for whatever you're trying to sell, what property you're trying to sell to them. So typically, I try to start with the top and get into the CEO, CMO, COO, Chief Revenue Officer, whoever it may be, C-suite, because they can make the decisions, especially on big-time deals like partnering with the UFC or partnering with the English Premier League. I've had a lot of success with this over the years, working at Fox and then UFC, and now with my agency, working with top-level C-suite execs. And really, the bottom line is we're trying to close deals. If you can get in that C-suite, close deals and you can make money, and that's the bottom line. That's what everybody's looking for. How do we bring in more money? So what are those 10 ways of getting that meeting and getting into the C-suite that I've found effective in my 25 years of experience? LinkedIn, I think it's one of the most powerful tools right now for a sales executive. You have to have a really good profile, and that can help sell you in. So I would concentrate on your profile, make sure that it is very dynamic, has maybe quotes and people recommending you, saying why you're so great, and showing all the different things. It's like, this is your resume online, but it also is a great way to connect with C-suite people, with decision makers, and find out what they've done, who they are, where they're from, what they're about. This helps you research them, understand what their passion points are, where they may have worked before, how you can connect with them, who you have in common that you're friends with. And then it's like, how do you go to those people and pitch them and connect with them? So for me, you're always trying to find that decision maker, the top person, the person who's going to become your advocate at that brand. LinkedIn's a great way. So how do you connect with those people? I've had a lot of success. Just even recently, I was connecting with the CMO of Amazon, talking about the English Premier League. And again, I didn't know him, but we had a lot of mutual friends. And I think you can send, if you go on LinkedIn, you can send that the common thing where it just says, "Hey, I'd like to connect with you on LinkedIn." If you send that, most people are going to be like, "Whatever, it's another person, junk mail." But if you personalize that, and there's a certain amount of letters you can do with that, with some information that you know about them or know about their company, you're much more likely that they're going to connect with you. And you're offering them something in return. Like, I'm an expert here, I can help you with your problem that I see going on. So with Amazon, I was like, you're trying to go globally. CMO is Andy Donkin, and I said, I'm representing some properties that I know you're having a lot of competition in China, and you're trying to get in there. How I can help you. I have some of the biggest passion points for the Chinese population. Chinese Basketball Associated and English Premier League soccer are two of the biggest sports in China. He responded. We had a meeting. We actually got connected through LinkedIn. I did the same thing with the Hershey CMO. CMO actually reached out to me and said, I want to connect with you and talk to you about the UFC, and we connected and we started talking and went down the line and actually got a deal. So that it can go both ways, but I think if you personalize it and really think about it when you're trying to connect with those people, think about how much you have on your plate, how many times people are coming to you with requests, and how much other things you deal with. If you have somebody who just has that standardized, hey, would you like to connect? It doesn't work. So another way in LinkedIn I think is good is you can post articles now, and people are looking at that as more as a business tool. So I really like LinkedIn and use it a lot. Second big thing I think that really can help you is getting referrals, getting people to refer you or give you a warm intro to a client. So take your network, use your network, ask them if they're connected, you see them on LinkedIn, they're connected, or you just know that they had experience at that company. Who should I talk to? How should I go there? Can you give me an introduction? As you see, 97% of consumers trust it, but it's the same with C-suite. Anybody, you're going to take a recommendation from your friend or somebody you've done business with much more than just somebody reaching out blindly to you with an email or a letter or trying to connect with you and set up a meeting. I had a lot of success with this recently. I met the CEO of Yum, and we became friends over the last, 10 years. I was out golf with him 4 weeks ago and talking about my business and relaunching my agency, and he's like, hey, I'm friends with the head and founder of Cardinal Health. He's actually on our board. I'm going to give you an intro. So he sent an intro for me and introduced me to the founder of Cardinal Health. So now I'm getting a meeting with Cardinal Health and the heads of Cardinal Health to talk about, hey, internationally you're trying to grow. I have some international sports that could help you do that. And that's a meeting. The CRO, Chief Revenue Officer of Craftworks Restaurants and Breweries, which they own about 200 breweries, Old Chicago and Rock Bottom, and is a good friend, and we've known each other for years. I asked him, he used to work at Dunkin' Donuts. I said, can you introduce me to the new CMO? He's risen up through the ranks. He said, oh yeah, I'm great friends with him. Sent the email, connected us, and now we're having a meeting. So I think utilizing those connections you have is very important and can really work for you. Twitter, I know everybody's familiar with this, but people, you can talk about your successes, you can post about what you're doing. We're doing it here with this conference, but really, getting in front of people, posting about what you see that other people are doing that's successful in business, and maybe complimenting, executives on their reaching, everybody's talking about their goals and what they're trying to do and how they're trying to make their revenue. You can look at those things and what the successes are for those businesses. They introduce a new product. You can tweet about that, and that kind of gets you in front of those people that may see what you've done. Facebook, I'm not sure this is used really as a business tool as much as I think but still business people will look at it, and when they're researching you, when they're going to have a meeting with you, or if you're trying to get a meeting with them, they're going to go research you maybe or find out more about you. You want it to be clean. You want it to be professional. You don't want to have things on there where you're, drinking beer or going crazy, and it still reflects on you, and you have to be cognizant of that and understand that this is not just something that's out there that's just for your friends to see. People can see this, and it can become deterrent. So recognize what you have there. Industry conferences. I've done a lot of work where I've gone to conferences, and you like this, but there's a myriad of really high-end conferences you can go to around the country, and you can go and meet top-level clients at those conferences. And we're not talking about football conferences, as I put up here, but we're talking about, you want to map out beforehand, hey, I see these people are speaking, I want to go talk to them after or beforehand, or I'm going to even reach out to them before I even get there and say, hey, I'm going to be there, let's meet up while I'm at this conference. So I've had a lot of success going to major marketing and advertising conferences and meeting C-level suite people and heads of marketing that can really make decisions. And same time when you're there, you're finding out their goals and what they're trying to do and where they're trying to go. So it's also really good for an education and help you selling through how you can help them move their needle. Big events, this is another way that I think people can tie in and you can meet C-level execs. If you go to any of these major events, NCAA Championship, the Super Bowl, Final Four, Kentucky Derby, you don't even have to buy a ticket. It's just being there. The host hotels you can find out where they are. You don't have to stay there, but you go and just hang out around there. You're going to see these top-level people. And don't be afraid to walk up and just start talking to them. If you've done your research and you know who's going to, you can come up and you can be like, hey, introduce yourself. Just wanted to say I'm a fan of your thing, and really make the connection. You may not do your full sales pitch right there. I wouldn't do that, but you may say, hey, I'd love to talk to you and see if we can connect and I can help your business move forward. And you're always thinking about how I can help them. You're much more successful. Industry conventions. This is another thing. I live in Las Vegas, so we have some of the biggest industry conventions, CES and SEMA, but a myriad of others. I was just at one that was like a franchisee convention. If you go to the E3, but if you're trying to target different categories, this is another incredible place to go, and I've made tons of leads walking the halls, and not even have meetings. You just walk up to the booth, and you meet people that you wouldn't otherwise meet, and you just ask them, at the booth, like, who's the head of marketing? Typically they're there because all the sales guys are there because they're trying to sell to their industry internally, or the heads of sales are there, and you can go up and meet them, and it's a great place to go. I've had a lot of success. I was at a big event in terms of meeting clients, and I mentioned the COO of Yum, this gentleman named Rob Savage, who's a friend, and we were at the NCAA Final Four, and I was out, and we were, at the event. We weren't even, it was 2 nights before, and we were at a restaurant, and I met him and his wife, and we hit it off, and we've become friends ever since. So because I was at that location at that time, I made this incredible connection. Tom Budding of Budding Meats, which is like old Milwaukee, old Wisconsin, and Budding Meats. I was at a convention for convention in Las Vegas, and walking around and meeting with people at different booths and just introducing myself. And I went up to his booth, and they introduced me to Tom, and we became friends. And now we did some work with them at UFC, and it was just because I was there. Walked up and said, hey, hello, my name's Keo, I'm from the UFC. I wanted to talk to you about what you're trying to do, how you're trying to hit that younger millennial, and we had a really long conversation. A couple days later, we followed up the emails, and he connected me with his entire marketing staff, and it really helped move the needle. If you guys are in sales and you understand sales, there's the lists and ad database, which are kind of merged, but they're incredible tools for researching and finding who that decision maker is and who's doing, who's the person at that company that I need to get in touch with. So I use this extensively. If you don't have this, it's worth the cost. I think it's an incredible tool that you can use on top of your LinkedIn and your emails and Facebook. So I use that extensively. It's also great to monitor the competitive space. What are your competitors doing? What are similar people in that space doing? And looking, for alerts from Google and Daily Vista of where people are advertising, what they're doing, and that helps you, I think, in the long run, understand that your company, the companies you're trying to target, and how you want to help them go forward. one of the things that I think at the end has become a lost art, and we with this digital age, and I know we're at a digital conference, and everybody emails, and you connect with LinkedIn, and you send notes, or you text message these people, but if you send a personal note to somebody, it's very, very powerful, and you can handwrite that. People don't get snail mail that much anymore, and this is something that I think is just after you meet with somebody, if you do that, it's really endearing. I think it's also a way to get into C-suite. So when I was at UFC, we interviewed a bunch of agencies over in Europe to represent us, and one of the agencies was a group that had been in Manchester United, the most successful soccer team in the world, are the biggest brand in soccer, biggest brand in sports globally. But Manchester United was at revenues that were like 150 million, and they were like, we should be much higher than that. We should be, our revenue should be, 10x of this. So they created a program where they created a really nice inlaid book that they sent that had like a jersey in it that was customized for that CEO, and they sent it to these 200 top level CEOs and said, hey, we'd like to come in and talk to you about this. They sent this really nice gift to each of them. It came in like a really nice paper box. The success they had after that, they're now doing over $1 billion in revenue a year. So it just went 10x. They left and now have used that, and they brought in the naming rights partner for Arsenal, the jersey partner for Arsenal, who is spending 30 million pounds a year to entitle that, and they use that same technique, and they're now using that to go around to different organizations and say, hey, we can use our sales center. It's not like the biggest secret. It's like they did something really customizable that was a really nice gift, and they sent it to the CEO level people, and that enabled them to get in and tell their story, which they hadn't been able to do before. Finally, I know this is I'm 25 years in the business, so I'm older, but I think calling, and you can call people still and get a hold of them, and if you can get a hold of their assistant, even, you can make that relationship and you can move, but I think picking up the phone still works, and I try to call somebody at least once a day, a new person that I don't even know. I try to go and reach out to them, connect with them, call them on the phone, and see if I can get a hold of them. This is, you have to be prepared. When I was younger at Fox, running sales for the Fox Cable Sports Networks, Net Zero was on our competition, and I was on the West Coast, they were based in the West Coast, and I kept trying to call, and the general line, I was trying to get through to people, and I couldn't figure out who it was, so I just added a 1 to the end of the number, and it went right through, and Mark Goldston, who was the CEO, picked up the phone and was like, this is Mark Goldston, CEO of Net Zero. I'm like, hey, how you doing? This is Wimmer. And I was ready, so I gave him a whole presentation and pitch, and we hit it off and got it, but it was just because I had that 1 on the end of the number, and it actually went direct to his direct line, and a deal was to be had. He's like, I've been waiting for somebody to call me from Fox. I'm like, okay. So it worked out, and I think it's just, there's different ways of going about it, but you have to be really persistent and trying to use those 10 ways to really generate leads. So again, let's refresh on this. It's LinkedIn, very powerful tool. I think the most powerful tool right now for me for finding people and understanding what they're doing. Customer referrals are amazingly important. Making use of Twitter. Use your brand on Facebook has to be clean and professional. Industry conferences and events are a great way to get out there and meet people. We're here at one right now, but there's a lot of these going on. You don't even have to go to the events again. You can just be around them and be in the lobby sometimes. You can meet top-level people. Industry conventions, as I said, there's a lot of conventions. Depending on the category you are, they all have conventions somewhere, so targeting those ones you want to go after. It's a great way to get people in a different, rather than they're at their desk, they're there with their sales group, typically the heads of marketing, they're not trying to thinking marketing, they're thinking about sales, and you're coming up and talking to them. And then if you're talking to a sales guy at a company, much more likely to talk to you because they're sales guys and they're trying to sell, especially in that situation, they're thinking in the sales side. So they'll help you typically. The list, add database, watching who's in your space, very important. Personal letters, a gift is a great way to thank people for having the meeting, but also for getting a meeting. And then of course calling, as I mentioned before. Again, you have to be really prepared and do your research. Make it useful and actionable so that it's something that you're going to help them to reach their goals. How am I going to help you to solve a problem, get to where you want to go, and drive more revenue for you? Make it personal. Again, be high energy and positive. Really important. I think it's probably the most important thing is, hey, I come in here, I have energy, I'm positive. I can say, a lot of times you can say almost anything, but if you have that energy, people like that. Lifts them up and they like to be around you. So hopefully this is going to help you take your sales leads from medium to high, and hopefully this is a little educational. Thank you guys for your time. I don't know if there's not many people here, so if anybody has any questions, I'd love to take them.
I've got a question in regards to the gift. I've heard that in the past, and my question is when you send a gift, are you sending them the product or service that you're selling, or are you looking into LinkedIn and finding a hobby and finding
I think it's more.
unique?
I think it's more. I personally think it's more something unique.
Yeah.
You know, they're a Wisconsin grad. You go and you find a signed Gary Apple or Ball or whatever it may, and you send that to them or whatever it may be. You get them something that they have that you think would be kind of really unique. It could also be that you send them something that's like, hey, I'd like to invite you to this trip or this. We're going to be over in your area, and we're going to have this, we're going to be taking people on this, race course or whatever, driving experience. You want to do that. Right. Outside of what they're doing, it's, this is kind of interesting. Or you want to go golf, of course, is been the mainstay, but people don't do that as much. It seems like this day and age, everybody's like, it's, 6 hours of my time or 5 hours of my time, and I don't have that. So C-suite's sometimes different. They do, and if you know they're a golfer, that can be a very good one. So. Yeah. Anybody else? Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of the stuff you're talking about that works the best, very similar experience. A lot of it really one-to-ones, right? Meeting people in person, getting
Correct.
to know them, building relationships. Like you're not going to sell hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars in advertising or sponsorships unless they know who you are on a personal level.
Right.
I almost hate to ask this question, but clearly it's very time consuming, right? And so if you're building relationships, and like how do you personally balance like giving the amount of time, because your time is clearly very valuable, to build these relationships while also then doing the stuff in the day-to-day?
Yeah, I think it's interesting you bring that up. I was reading an article I think yesterday actually that I thought was very insightful. Your sales team, and I don't know how many people are actually in sales here, or like the head of sales, or running sales, or they are a salesperson, but your sales team should be unencumbered to get out there and sell as much as they can, and you should have a support staff as much as possible. And I know if you're running your own company, that's fine, but that sales staff, typically, if you look at the average salesperson, they're spending 15% of their time really out there actually pitching people. If 15%. You want them out there. I'd love to have my sales guys out there 100% of the time. So I always designed sales forces that had that infrastructure under them that would provide everything. They don't need to deal with the contracts. They don't need to deal with the make goods. They don't have to deal with, all the little things that divert you from going out there prospecting and getting meetings and getting in front of people. So that's your sales guys. You want those guys there. You want that support staff that's behind them, and it could be just an assistant or a planner, but depending on the size of your company. At Fox, we had planners and assistants. At UFC, we had like a whole support staff that was there, and then you have the research department and everything else that was behind that. So it just depends on you're a smaller company. I know you may not have all the resources, but you should try to get your top. Typically, the top sales guy in a smaller company is the head of the company, so you're like also running the company, so it makes it hard, but if you can enable yourself to get away from, doing some of those menial things, because you can offlay those to push your sale, because you're the best salesperson out. I'm sure you're probably the top salesperson at Bold, right? I'd imagine. I don't know if that's true. But if you get in the room, you have a much higher likelihood of closing the deal rather than one of your other people. So get the support so they can do that. You can take a lot of it off, and you can go out there and really concentrate on that. That's my suggestion. Yeah. Thanks, you guys. Anything?